Blog Talk Radio.
Well, here we go. It's that time again. If it's Wednesday, it's the True North podcast, hosted by a brother, a mentor, and a friend, Bill North, up there in Seattle, Washington. Yours truly, Mark Mancini in Los Angeles, producing, playing a little co-host with him. 347-205-9631. If you miss it, you want to catch the archive version, blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports, podcast platforms, wherever you subscribe to podcasts, powered now by Mancini Media. So without further ado, as I lay that red carpet down, put the podium in its place, hand off the mic, the threes, Billy. How are you? How can people get a hold of you? And you're bringing another great guest on this show.
Oh, Mikey, I'm pretty good. I ain't mad at nobody. You can reach me at billnorte15@gmail.com. And my guest today is a friend of mine, a teammate, a competitor, true competitor. His name is Darold Knowles. He was a left-handed relief pitcher who used to sometimes come and set up Raleigh fingers. But he was also, he closed some games himself too. And how are you, Darold?
Billy, I am doing great. I really thank you for having me on. It's outstanding. We spent some time together last weekend. It was super. But personally, I'm doing very, very well, and I thank you for the kind words. I did close a few games, but there's no getting around it. Raleigh was the horse. I just tried to compliment it.
You did too, real well. What do you think, Darold, about our reunion? Give me a little reaction to the weekend.
You know, I thought actually this was probably the best of the last couple three we've had, only because Dietra did a great job. Obviously, the lady that sets it all up in Oakland, and obviously where we stayed, and a 5-star place was outstanding. She had it very well organized. I didn't think there was any hitches at all. I mean, they had food, they had wine, they had a great dinner on the last evening. I thought it was outstanding. I know there's one more year, and I hope they have us back next year because I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, that was a joy this weekend. Got to bring my grandkids in, and that my daughter and them. My granddaughter, I just wanted her to see what Papa used to do for a living. She's 6, and we got to get that accomplished. So I was going to ask you another question too, Darold. You got over 55 years in the game.
I have actually. Thank you. I retired a couple of years ago with 60 years in professional baseball.
Wow.
I played for 20 and I coached for 40. Very, very fortunate. I can honestly tell you, not to jump in here, but just to tell you, when I got released as a player, I had no idea what I was going to do with the rest of my life. And I was not that old. I mean, I had 15 years in the big leagues. So I didn't know. And I was offered a job in the minor leagues with the Cardinals, and I took it. And the rest is history. I spent 40 years, and not always with the Cardinals. I worked for the Cardinals, worked for the Phillies, I worked for the Pirates, and I worked for the Toronto Blue Jays. So it was great.
Mostly in pitching, and helping with rehabs too, weren't you?
Well, I was a pitching coach for 35 years. The last 5 years, they asked me to kind of work with the rehab guys, and I stayed home. It was beautiful. I had the greatest job in baseball. I was in the minor leagues, working at home. I got to go home and sleep in my own bed every night. So it was awesome.
Wow. Marky?
Very lucky. Very lucky.
Yeah, Darold, I want to talk about the weekend in Oakland. I know the A's came up short, but just seeing everybody there, tell the listeners how it was. I mean, who was there? I know we've lost a few of the guys, Sal Bando, but that had to be nice. And I'm hearing the 5-star hotel and being taken care of. Boy, that's a far cry from the Charlie Finley days.
Because one of Charlie's sons, by the name of Carl Finley, was there with his wife, and he's been there the last couple of years. And he's nothing like Charlie. He's a pretty nice guy. He understands that some of the guys weren't obviously pleased with Charlie during the day.
No, that didn't love him, Jimmy.
I thought I said that about as well as I could, but
yeah.
But you know, it was overall it was outstanding. I mean, they took care of us as well as they could, and you know, I always say the best part of those reunions, if you will, is one night while we're there, all the ball players and usually their wives too gather around and tell stories and laugh. And we did that the first night there, and it was hilarious. I mean, it was like it was a late night, but nobody cared. There was laughing, probably a little lying.
Little.
but everybody had a great time, and it was really, really super. I can't wait to do it next year.
Yeah, that's going to be great.
Well, let me ask you. I'm sorry.
I know this much. It was a thing that you know how you put yeast in bread to make bread. There was yeast in some of them lies that were being told. They got bigger and bigger.
That's right. It's awesome.
Well, not only that, Darold, you played in in Philadelphia. I'm blessed enough to do a show out of that city, and boy, they boo Santa Claus. But Chicago, where they start drinking probably at 7 a.m. Montreal, where the poor Expos, as much as I love them, hockey seems to be a religion in Montreal, and then St. Louis, where the Bible might be right up with the Cardinal baseball. Take us through some of those cities you played in as well.
Well, to be honest with you, I first came up years ago with the Baltimore Orioles. I came through their farm system. I got to Baltimore and spent, I think, 60 days in 1965 with them. And then they traded me, and I went to the Phillies. Had my first full year in baseball in the big leagues with the Phillies. I played for Gene Mauch. He loved me the first half of the year. The second half, he wasn't quite so fond of me, but he just didn't fit. But I kind of tapered off a little bit, in fairness. And then I got traded to the Washington Senators. I played for Gil Hodges, and later played for Ted Williams with the same club. By the way, that's how smart I was. I played for Ted Williams. I didn't even get his autograph. So I wasn't, somehow I wasn't thinking right. But from there, I went to the Oakland A's, and I wasn't real happy when I got traded over there because I was the closer in Washington, loved it, spent 4 great years there, and then I got traded to Oakland, and I can honestly say I was not real happy, but after about 2 weeks, I realized this club got a chance to win it all, and we did, and I like to think I was a part of it, but I wasn't the biggest part of it, but I certainly contributed, and I loved every minute of it. And yes, we did win. We won the division. I was there 4 years. We won the division all 4 years. First year we lost the playoffs. The next 3 years we won it all. So such great memories. And I did wind up to go back a little bit. I did wind up playing for the Cardinals my last year in the big leagues. And I always wanted to play for St. Louis because I grew up in Missouri. Unfortunately, when I got there, this is my 14th and 15th year in the big leagues, and I wasn't quite as effective as I was earlier, so that was sad. But overall, I have no regrets. I've spent 60 years professional baseball. I don't have one bad story to tell about any of them. I loved them all.
I'll tell you this: there was you set a record in '73.
Yeah.
You had a save in the first and the last game, and you pitched in all 7 of the games. That was quite. You came in, you relieved Raleigh Fingers a couple of times.
I actually told Dick Williams, I said, "How smart are you? You take Raleigh Fingers out and bring me in." And
yeah, but you got him out.
Well, it worked.
Yeah, I'm looking at that as like a stroke of genius. And that guy that you're talking about, he taught us a lot about baseball.
Oh.
And talk about him and the team he developed.
Dick Williams was, in played 15 years in big league. Played for some great baseball people. You know, like talking about Gene Mock. I played for Gil Hodges. I played for obviously Dick and Kenny Boyer my last year with the Cardinals. I mean, some great baseball minds. But Dick was the type of guy that I don't think you ever wanted to go out to dinner with him, but you wanted to go to the ballpark with him. And he may sound gruff all the time, but once that game started, he was so serious, and he taught us, I think, how to play the game then. He would not accept anything but the playing the game the way it's supposed to be played. And that's why, even though there's some I'll laugh here, rumors about there's some skirmishes between players.
Moments. We'll just call them moments.
Those moments, yeah. And there might have been a little bit, but once the game started, and this has been said many times, he demanded we play it correctly, and he was right, and the results are obvious. So it was a great time.
Mm-hmm. Wow. And let me ask both of you this. You know, I remember playing hockey, and, you know, you mentioned Darold losing the first year in the playoffs. I can remember playing hockey and getting beat. And to me, you know, I said to myself, gosh, you know, you want to win the title. It takes a long time to get there, and you come up short in second place is, you know, like almost like finishing last. It prolongs the inevitable. But how did you guys pick up the pieces after that and then start steamrolling? Because that feeling of celebrating in the clubhouse is going to be second to none.
Well, if you're asking me, I think yes, that's absolutely correct. When we lost the playoffs, I think there was not a letdown, but there was a realization that everybody knew, hey, we're better than this. We can win this. And even though we got beat by Baltimore, who had a great ball club, great pitching, great ball club, that first year. The next year it came around, we weren't going to let that happen. I think I can't even remember who we played the next year. Was it the Tigers when had the great incident with Campy? When
that got me my job. Yeah.
But and then the following year we actually beat Baltimore in the playoffs. So all of a sudden we realized, I think everybody realized collectively that, hey, this is the hell of a ball club. We can do this, and we did. So it was. I don't think there was any question whether we could do it. It's just a matter of going and doing it, and that's part of the game. That's the way it works.
I know this much, and for me, I had probably my best year in '73, and then right before the playoffs, I got hurt, and so I didn't get to play in the World Series. But we, luckily enough, we got to go back the next year. But I maintain to this day, in that situation, Baltimore Orioles were the toughest thing I ever had to do in my career because they were just like us. And playing against those guys, it was always like pulling teeth. But we ended up beating them a couple of years in a row.
We did.
And when we got to the World Series, I didn't get to play in the '73, but '74, it was a thing that I remember Dick Green when we got into L.A. talking about the Dodgers. You know, I picked up my usual papers and started reading what they were saying, and there were only two guys on the Oakland A's that could play on the Dodgers, and Dick Green saying, I didn't even care about this, but we're going to beat them up, you know. And in our experiences, Darold, I think that when you look back on like a weekend like we had this past weekend, and our histories in the game, there's nothing that compares to being a world champion.
Oh, well, listen, you can. I will take it to the grave just being a member of those and those three World Series teams. They were the greatest things that ever happened to me. In '73, I was lucky enough I got the last out of the series, and only because Gene Tennis made an error with 2 out in the ninth inning, and I thank him every time I see him because he got. But that's the greatest thrill I ever had in the game, and rightfully so. But overall, just being in the World Series and winning it is also the greatest thrill you can ever have. Kids, as kids, you dream about stuff like that, and obviously we were lucky enough to experience it, and I don't think you can ever take that away from us, and that's why the celebrations they have where they invite us all back for the reunions and everything, that just makes it brings it all back. They cannot ever take it away from us. So I love them all for doing it. I love you guys.
Let me ask you something, Darold. Growing up, we all have idols. Mine was Willie Stargell. Billy followed somebody. Who was your idol growing up, and who did you pattern your style of pitching to?
Well, I grew up in Missouri, and I idolized Stan Musial. And by the way, there's another guy. I worked for the Cardinals for 10 years after I got done playing, and I never got Stan's autograph, and I talked to him at numerous. I wasn't very smart doing that stuff, but I got another one to tell you, but later. But just those memories are the best. That's it. By the way, I got one other guy. I used to go duck hunting with Mickey Mantle after I got done playing. I never got his autograph. Jesus.
I got his autograph.
You're ahead of me.
But, when you look at the state of Oakland today, and it's so, I know they're the only one playing it, that played in that multi-purpose stadium. The Raiders have left there. When you go back and you guys see what Oakland is now, it's a far cry than when you won championships there. It's sad to see that this team might be moving out of there and going to Vegas. Any thoughts, Darold? And I'll go over to Bill on this because, this take that tradition out of a city without somebody coming in there and buying it, maybe moving it out to the riverfront out there in Oakland. It would be sad to see the A's leave Oakland after all these years.
Well, yes, I think it would be, but I think it's inevitable. Personally, I don't know. I have no inside knowledge, but we didn't draw well when Oakland first went out there. We didn't even draw well during the World Series years, and they're still not drawing well. I understand a little bit now because the fans they're up in the air about are we going to keep the Oakland A's or are they going to move, whatever. So I understand why some might be reluctant to go out there on a daily basis, but overall they've never ever, I don't think, drawn well. However, the fans that do come are outstanding, and there are some fans, diehard fans, that come every day, and they still do. And even though it may not be in as large a numbers as there are some other ballparks, it's still. I think we have an allegiance to them, and they have to us. I remember when they brought us in the other day, Billy, when they brought us in the cars, and I heard people yelling, going, "Hey, we remember you guys. We remember you." That was 50 years ago. It's hard to believe that, but that's a long time.
I heard that too. Yeah, it was
nice.
Go ahead, there.
No, I was just saying it was a nice feeling. I felt great. And by the way, I got out of the car and two guys I used to work with, two pitchers I used to work with the Blue Jays are on that pitching staff. And don't ask me their names because I'm not. One of them I do. I remember. The other one I can't. I can't remember his names.
Yeah, don't mess up like that.
But it was and not only that, guys. It might be that when you looked at baseball in Oakland, maybe some of these cities. I know in Pittsburgh, the Pirates, even in the heyday, couldn't sell out the place. They were competing with the Steelers. Did you ever feel like that the Raiders were more or less? There's always some, like, even in St. Louis, the Cardinals dominate. The Rams couldn't compete. Is it just because sometimes in some of these cities that one team overshadows the other, Darold and Bill?
I don't think so. I think that we had an opportunity there. But the one thing I can tell you is in even the years that we were winning, there was no, they didn't put us in the public. They didn't advertise. I mean, it was like franchise ran on a wing and a prayer and no expenditures. I don't think the team has ever been really promoted the way that it could be, and now in this era that we have right now, where stadiums are some fine stadiums now, new and they're less than 50,000, and they're custom stadiums and like that. If they could make a successful franchise in Cleveland, they sure could have done it in Oakland, because Cleveland they used to draw less than we did, and then and if they'd have put a ballpark there and really reach out to the fans on that side of the Bay, I think we could have done better. And me personally, I think that baseball should have been more community conscious and try to help the city of Oakland. Most of the people that are involved in baseball there, when they leave the ballpark, they go to the out into the valley, into San Ramon, and not too many hang around in Oakland. And I think that it's been a thing that there's a number of reasons, but I like I say, I'm biased because I lived in Oakland for 20 plus years, and I love that town, and it's a good town for me, and I've always had fond memories of it. It's one of my favorite towns in the country, right there with Chicago. So
right.
You know.
Well, and not only that, guys, you know, the Dodgers and Giants came out here, but they didn't put California on the map as much as you did with those 3 straight championships. So, you know, that's the bright light right there in the big city, what Oakland did. You know, yeah, the Giants came out here and the Dodgers, and they won titles, but nobody made a bigger blueprint, I think, than you guys winning those 3 in a row. Any thought to that, Darold?
Well, I think you're exactly right. But I mean, you know, when you think back about it, I mean, there was 3 Hall of Famers come off of those clubs. You know, and talking about Reggie and Raleigh and Catfish, people started associating with that ball club, and not just those 3 guys, but the whole ball club. The fans we had were great.
Yeah, they were.
The unfortunate part about it, there wasn't enough of them, I would say. I remember the first year, I think it was 71, when we won the division and we're in the playoffs. We didn't even draw 1 million people, or we didn't even fill that ballpark. We didn't draw 1 million all year.
900,000.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's you know, even now that's I don't know what they draw as a total now, but it's still probably not up there. And then I think the fans are a little upset. Maybe they'll move, maybe they won't. I like Oakland. I loved going back to the city. Always treated us well. When they saw us where we were, there used to be that hotel down there. What was the name of that hotel down there, Billy?
Was the Hyatt. It was across the highway.
Water. That's what it was, yeah. And it was simple. And of course now it's gone. It's torn down. But anyway, I don't know if they build a new ballpark. The ballpark now that they remodeled it for the football, is along with baseball, it's really, really big. And it's
obnoxious.
I know what you're saying, but they need to have a 30,000 seat stadium, and maybe they could draw it better. I don't know, but I don't know where they're going to put it. That's the problem.
Well, they were going to put it downtown, Daryl, and drawings of the stadium, it would be fantastic if it came to fruition, the way that they have it drawn up. But I think that there's some desire in the baseball back east in the commissioner's office and in the owner's office to move to Vegas and get that, which is a quandary in itself. Is many times I've been in a locker room and it said the one sign you always had in that locker room was no gambling. So and now Vegas is the way to go.
Yeah.
About that, right?
Yeah, amazing. Hey, in the last less than 4 minutes and change, any favorite decade, Daryl and Bill? I mean, I always put it out there, and Bill knows all the times doing this crazy show across the board, but I think the 70s, and I'll be 62 in November, nothing beats the 70s. To me, the crazy uniforms, the mustaches, the personalities. Are the 70s the best decade, Daryl, for you?
All right, let me say this. Let me go back a little bit and just for me, I was never a big Charlie Finley fan because he didn't treat the players the way I thought he should, including myself. But he must have been a hell of a lot smarter than we thought. He put together a heck of a ball club. Even when everybody was upset with him, he kept the players he got, always helped the ball club. And he wasn't afraid to go out and get ball players. He didn't want to pay them. And I think the biggest complaint, one of the biggest memories everybody has is on the World Series rings. And there was such a downplay from one to the other. But, I mean, that's all history now. And when you look back on it, I've said this many times. I don't know whether, Bill, you feel this way or not, but overall, he might have been a hell of a lot smarter than we thought he was.
Well, the one thing I'll tell you about him is to go to the eras. I think the greatest ball players that ever played the games were from the late 50s to the late 70s. I mean, to 79. And I think that Daryl is a bit older than me, but I just know this much. I watched these guys as I grew up as a kid, and the Aarons and the Billy Williams and the Ferguson Jenkins and all of them, and got to play with them in the 70s. And to me, I'd never give that up for anything in the world.
You're right.
And that era to me, and there was a lot of good music and a party or two here and there, and we were riding pretty high, Daryl. Getting more attention. I'm glad they didn't have camera phones back in them days. I'd just now be getting out of San Quentin.
Great
hey, Daryl, give me a quick story in the last 2 minutes. Facing the Pirates, or maybe you faced my idol Willie Stargell. Any stories about the Pittsburgh Pirates and you?
Yeah, I got a couple. I got one day in St. Louis. I'm pitching for the Cardinals. Now, granted, it's the end of my career, or the latter couple of years. I threw a home run ball to Willie Stargell in St. Louis in the old ballpark, and it had to have been there. It went right center field above the flashing bird. They used to have a bird up there that
flashed. It used to fly.
In the upper deck. Yeah. In the upper deck. Nobody ever up there. Nobody ever. And Dane Orge was our right fielder, and the kangaroo court. Everybody had one back in those days. They fined Dane for keeping the ball like he was going to catch it. That thing was a over him. I faced Willie so many times. I faced the Pirates, and obviously I faced. That was my job to try to get left-handed hitters out, and the Pirates had one hell of a ball club. I mean, talking about him and Parker and even Clemente my first year in the big leagues, and people do this. In 1966, I don't know if I ever got him out. I think I faced him 5 or 6 times. Gene Malk used to bring me in because it was Stargell and then Clemente. I'd get Stargell out, but I couldn't get Clemente out. So
you weren't the only one.
No, I wasn't. No, there's a lot of people. That's right.
Hey, don't feel bad. He still has 2 records out here in Los Angeles at Dodger Stadium, clearing that 76 sign, putting them in the parking lot. So He's still got some records. I'm sure he's got them across the country too, even in Philadelphia, along with Lazinski and Schmidt and all those guys. But man, oh man, we can go hours on this show, Billy. We keep getting better each and every week. We got to get Darold to come back again. Billy, you want to let everybody know, and then I'll give it over to Darold to wrap it up on how everybody can get a hold of you guys, man. It's such a great feeling to do this each and every week, my brother.
Wonderful. I thank you so much, Darold. You can reach me at billnorte15@gmail.com. And Darold, we got fond memories, and we had a lot of hugs and times together this weekend, and I just appreciate you so much coming on the show and making our fans be gracious, and being gracious to our fans and making them have a good time. And I thank you so much, and tell your wife, who is a wonderful woman, to tell her I said hi, and thank you again.
Well, I will definitely do that. I will tell her, and I thank you, and I'll leave this with one thing, that a lot of my memories of you are great. They're all great, but I still remember the day you came down to the bullpen between at bats. You were in the game, and then played Kansas City, and they had brought home a pitcher named Doug Bird. You remember that guy?
I remember talking to you and telling you what was going to happen. For another day, but it was very. Everybody was shocked. I remember that. So.
Wow.
Well,
unbelievable. For Darold Knowles. Yeah. For Billy North. Yours truly, Mark Mancini. Say, if you want to catch this repeat version, catch it on blogtalkradio.com/Mancini Sports. I think next week, Billy, as I do this show, I'll wear my Swingin' Ace T-shirt. I got it underneath this pile somewhere, minus the white shoes and the elephant. But that's a story for next week. Have a blessed one, guys. I love you dearly, and thank you very much for everybody tuning in. We'll catch you next week. Same time, same channel. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, guys.
Good night. Thanks.